I think overarching stories are needed in an ongoing series like Power Rangers. The show doesn't have to stick to it like glue. There's been times where this was bad, like a certain magical Red Ranger, but there should always be something for the characters to reach. If they don't do that, then they really don't have anything besides the default stop the bad guy. I don't really care if it's simple like Billy's progress through MMPR or complicated like Wes and his father, as long as they have attainable goals. Thanks goes to Alvaro Moreira for coming up with this topic. If you'd like to leave a suggestion for me to cover, leave a comment down below.
Deviant's betrayal.
I can already hear the screaming from Lost Galaxy fans. How can you pick this character? Magna Defender's story with this son is way better. And you're right, that arc is really good, but Deviant affects the season more. I personally think Deviant is one of the best villains created because most villains stick to a few things. They're evil, they want to get rid of the Rangers, and they follow orders from the boss. But he had other motivations, taking over as leader, lying and sucking up every which way to reach it. Deviant doesn't give up on ideas. Just because the good guys defeat him once, he goes, this plan can work, how do I implement it better? He located 3 giant Zords in secret, figured out how to control and brainwash them. He knows that this has a bonus effect in making the other Zords not want to fight. He then works with this mind control into humans and arguably into Keira herself at the end of the season. Ultimately, he didn't beat the Rangers, but he did win. He got rid of Terra Venture, killed a lot of people, 3 of the Zords are gone, 1 Ranger is done. Terra Venture's people did reach their destination, but they had to live a hard life, rebuilding everything without the station. The original Magna Defender does have a better personal arc, but Deviant shaped the season.
The Thunder Rangers.
Not just the arc of the Thunder Rangers becoming good, but the underlying story of them becoming good people. The Thunder Academy is the Wind Academy's rival school, so a lot of resentment has festered between them. Blake and Hunter had to look past both Lothor's tricks and their personal feelings between the 2 schools. They even walked away from everything. I really miss this from PR. How many times have you seen a Ranger get so pissed off at a mistake they go and actually quit? And I'm not talking about Will. This is the most difficult problem a superhero faces. You could do a million good things, but all it takes is just one major screw up. A child dying in your hands, 20 people being killed in a building collapse. You can't take that all the time. So when Blake and Hunter realized what they did, they were like, screw this. The ultimate test was when Hunter was taken control of with the gas. Ninja Storm was filled with a lot of parallel stories. I found the season more interesting because of that style.
Wes and Jen.
The classic Romeo and Juliet story. One comes from the future, the other doesn't know where he fits in. Everything was against these two. Jen's fiance was killed in front of her. It would take a long time for her just to open up. But on top of that, Wes looked like him. Then he had the problem of being the spoiled rich guy stereotype. This even caused the hatred from Eric. If you like love stories, Wes and Jen's, I would argue, is the best one done. I know it failed when they didn't kiss because, you know, that's no good to see. But no one else has gone through it all. Jen goes from almost getting married, Alex faking his death, meeting someone who looks like him, Wes fighting his father and Jen's view of him, and getting stopped by Jen's career. All this had to be overcome. When Alex came back, he tied a nice red bow, letting her finally decide, ending the season-long story.
The Psycho Rangers.
Besides Carlos on call, the Psycho Rangers arc was a solid story. Could it have been better? Yeah, all 5 of them needed something to do. That was their only drawback. However, most of them did do really good stuff. They did a lot of things I always questioned. The easiest way to find the Rangers is their voice. They even acknowledge it a few times. If Bulk and Skull can think it up, why don't villains use this? Why don't they learn their fighting styles? The villains lose monsters every episode, but the Rangers don't really change. Exploit that. PR needs more enemies that fight them as Rangers, but also in their civilian lives. When you attack them in both areas, most Rangers can't cope. It doesn't even need to be physical. When the Psycho stopped them from talking in one episode, everyone was messed up. You can't do anything with that on top of you. It feels more personal when every aspect starts getting involved. No more safe zone. Imagine an MMPR if Goldar attacked everyone in the juice bar. You'd remember that episode.
Ryan Mitchell.
Ryan's story is what Tommy lacked in the Green Ranger arc. Ryan stolen out of blackmail, raised under the false pretense of his family abandoning him, only to find out he was duped. How do you deal with those feelings? Like it or not, Diabolico was his father just as long as his real father was. Feelings do form. It's a serious conflict, which in return caused him to leave the team. There was nothing stopping him from just staying at the base while they tried to deal with the tattoo, but you knew he didn't want to endanger his friends and family again. Maybe there was also some guilt left over. It took him a long time to forgive himself from his evil actions. No one was harder on Ryan than himself.
Sky Team.
Everyone had their issues in SPD. That's one of the best things that came out of SPD. Sky's story, I think, was the best one. It's why he is who he is. And sometimes the reason why he says things that aren't so nice. He wanted to be Red Ranger because of his father, but not just because he was. He wanted to get revenge on who killed him. Sky only believed he was worthy of that if he became a Red Ranger. This makes him resent anyone that gets in his way. Whether Sid was picked as Red Ranger or Jack, who has zero training, it didn't matter. All of B Squad, Sam and Kruger learned lessons. But Sky started from being an over-tightened cork, following rules and regulations to a T, to being responsible, but knowing when to not go overboard. Everyone taught him stuff. That's one of the reasons why Kruger picked Jack as Red Ranger. Notice how Sky joined a team of people that would easily annoy him. Sid in her personality, Bridge in his ways he solved cases, and now Jack with Z who came off the streets. They were all there to crack that shell he built over him.
Andros.
I'm picking Andros not for the obvious Carone part, but also him learning to trust people again. Andros was a broken man. His sister was kidnapped, his planet nearly wiped out, Zane almost killed in a fight, and then Zordon was captured while he was helping. Andros must have felt he was useless, letting people down all the time, so he ended up closing himself off, only focusing on finding his sister and Zordon. Even when the Earth Rangers proved to be trusted, Andros still didn't tell them about Zane. It took a long time for him to finally accept everyone. Zane did help him out, and Carone coming back for that short moment cleared his head. You've been through many monsters and the psychos. Trust your new team just like they trust you. He eventually became that better person. Every time Andros returns, he seeks out help wherever he can get it.
Eric Meyers.
Eric went through a similar life like Wes did, just at the other end of the yard. I loved this backstory because it painted a person as being flawed and the world around him being flawed. With the MMPR characters, they were virtually perfect, always on time, perfect grades, everyone was smart, with very little issues. Eric was the opposite of this. Grew up in a poor, crummy household, no one helped him, he had to fight tooth and nails to get anywhere. Entering that expensive, posh, rich guy college, showing everyone, I did it! But it didn't mean anything. People still treated him as dirt, with one exception, Wes. Eric hated Wes. Wes symbolized everything he despised. He was handed everything. What problem does he have to worry about? While Wes was trying to get away from that life. This crossed into the Quantum Ranger powers. Normally, you become a Ranger because you're a good person. You don't have other motives, good or bad. This was a key piece to Philip and Dino Charge. But Eric was allowed to become a Ranger when he did it for the power and what it would give him, control. It's rare for the show to do a character like this. You're showing kids the gray area of life. That's why a lot of people like Time Force. It didn't shy away from those issues, but it still went back to what PR always teaches. Eric did change. He understood Wes and his life better. The funny thing is, Eric wasn't just convinced by Wes, it was also the little girl who visited his birds.
Connor, Keira, and Ethan's friendship.
I would say this team of Rangers are the most realistic characters done to date. When a team is formed, it usually is the extreme on either side. They pretty much like each other from the get-go or hate working together. Rarely does the show get a really good balance between the two sides. More surprisingly, with the school setting, our three heroes come from very different backgrounds. Ethan is the nerd. He has no respect towards jocks, nor any interest in watching sports. Connor would never notice Ethan or Keira. She's not his type, and Ethan would just be some weird guy that does pranks. That's how they acted when they're forced to be together in the first episode. This reached the peak in the leader of the WAC when they experienced opposite personalities. Three people who went from, you're weird, don't talk to me, to three people who graduated together as friends.
Anton and Trent Mercer.
These two had a complicated and long journey in Dino Thunder. They even had the same problems. Trent, being an orphan, had to deal with a disconnect from his father being so obsessed with work. He tried to deal with his standoff nature. When Anton turned into Mesogog, he fought to stay in control, making an enemy out of his business partner Tommy, lying to his son. He didn't even have the guts to tell Tommy what happened. Trent falling in love with Keira, then stupidly stumbling into Mesogog's base, being corrupted by the evil white dino gem, repeating every mistake his father did. As the audience, you didn't know what side to pick. Was Trent and Anton doing the right call, hiding this from the others? Yeah, it was their fault, but their actions were not. Then it blows up in their faces. How could you trust Mercer or Trent once they found out the truth? Connor had every right to not want to go near Trent. He fought them, he nearly killed them, took pleasure in it, stole their Zords, endangered people, froze Tommy and Amber. They lied this whole time. It's a tough position, not just for Trent and Anton, Keira and Tommy too. He's been in this problem before. He knows how they feel. He knows how people react. That's why he doesn't tell them what to do. They have to figure it out on their own. There's a ton of arcs in the various seasons. I can't list them all, like Cam's journey becoming a ranger, the MMPR Green Ranger, Robo Knight's arc, Theo's arc. What are your favorites? I allowed villains in my list. Would you accept a few of them? Or strictly only being heroes? Thanks for watching. New episodes premiere every Monday, and next time I'll be talking about the best villain plans.